Neville Goddard's forbidden metaphysics carries a truth so powerful it was shared at great personal risk. Within these teachings lies the understanding that makes the universe obey, not through force, but through the mastery of your inner world. As you listen, you will begin to realize this power was never outside of you. Neville Goddard's Forbidden Metaphysics. Introduction. Within the ancient wisdom traditions lies a truth so potent that its very utterance transforms the one who speaks it. Imagination is not mere fantasy, but the foundational force of creation itself. This understanding, carefully preserved through the ages and masterfully articulated by Neville Goddard, reveals that your consciousness is the sole author of your experience. The universe operates through an unwavering law. Your emotional conviction shapes the substance of reality. When you grasp that your inner world commands your outer circumstances, you hold the master key to existence itself. This is not metaphor, but metaphysics in its purest form. Your imagination, infused with the feeling of the wish fulfilled, becomes the blueprint that reality must follow. This is not about positive thinking or mere visualization. It is about assuming the consciousness of your desired state until it solidifies into physical fact. The external world has no choice but to reconstruct itself to match your inner knowing. You need not petition external forces or struggle against circumstances. Your task is simply to occupy the state of consciousness where your desire already exists. Feel its reality now, not as a future possibility, but as a present fact. The universe responds not to what you want, but to what you are, to the state you occupy in consciousness. This knowledge carries profound responsibility. Each thought, each feeling state you maintain, shapes the fabric of your experience. You are not a passive observer, but the active center of creation itself. Your awareness is the substance from which all things are formed. The practice is simple, yet absolute. Choose the state you wish to occupy, step into it emotionally, and maintain that feeling until the outer world aligns with your inner conviction. This is not manifestation. It is the revelation of what already exists when consciousness shifts to its desired state. This is the forbidden knowledge. You are the operant power. The universe is your obedient servant, waiting to express whatever state you claim as true. Before we get into the book, comment, "I am ready," to affirm your intention to the universe. Part 1. The Law of Imaginal Dominion. Chapter 1. The Hidden Kingdom Within. In the quiet corners of an ancient library, a story unfolds that reveals one of the universe's most sacred principles. A librarian named Jonathan discovered a truth that would forever alter his understanding of reality's fabric. Each morning, as sunlight filtered through towering bookshelves, Jonathan began experimenting with an inner practice, imagining conversations exactly as he wished them to unfold. What started as a simple exercise soon revealed an extraordinary pattern. Words he had rehearsed only in his mind began flowing from the lips of those around him, often verbatim. The universe, it seemed, was an echo chamber of consciousness. Through Jonathan's awakening, you now glimpse the first law of creation. External dialogue is but a mirror of internal speech. When you infuse your imagined conversations with the feeling of natural occurrence, the outer world arranges itself to match this inner certainty. Across the city, in a sunlit music studio, Diana Keaton uncovered this same principle through a different melody. Before each lesson, she would close her eyes and envision her students playing with masterful grace. In her mind's eye, she heard their perfect notes and felt the warmth of their accomplishment. As if guided by an unseen conductor, her students began performing at levels that seemed to transcend their years of practice. These stories illuminate the sacred mechanism of creation. Your inner conversations, charged with emotional conviction, become the script the world must follow. When you speak within as though your desires are achieved, reality reshapes itself to match your certainty. This is not mere positive thinking. It is the fundamental law by which consciousness creates experience. Every external word spoken to you is an echo of what you have first spoken to yourself. The world cannot help but reflect the conversations you hold in the temple of your mind. Sacred practice. As you prepare for sleep tonight, choose one interaction you wish to experience. See it unfolding exactly as you desire. Hear the words exchanged with perfect clarity. Most crucially, feel the natural reality of this exchange in your heart. Let this feeling be your final companion as you drift into sleep, knowing that the outer world must mirror what you have written in consciousness. The universe has no choice but to echo the conversation you have already concluded within. Chapter 2. The Substance of Assumption. In the depths of night, in a small apartment cluttered with unpaid bills, Harold Mercer discovered an ancient truth. While others sought external solutions, Harold learned to plant seeds in the garden of imagination. Night after night, he would sit in his weathered armchair, eyes closed, feeling the weight of financial freedom in his bones. He didn't merely think about abundance. He lived it in the theater of his mind until his whole being resonated with the certainty of wealth. The universe, ever responsive to the frequencies of feeling, began its subtle dance of reorganization. Within weeks, unexpected opportunities emerged like springs in a desert. A forgotten investment matured. A client referred another, then another, until his consulting practice flourished beyond recognition. The secret lay not in Harold's actions, but in his assumption. Each night, before sleep claimed him, he would feel the texture of success, the lightness of being debt-free, the quiet joy of abundance. He had discovered that the outer world must conform to the inner vision when that vision is sustained with unwavering emotional conviction. Margaret Lowell's story reflects this same principle from another angle. In the chaos of the emergency ward where she worked, she discovered that peace wasn't something to be found. It was something to be assumed. Each evening, she would wrap herself in the feeling of perfect serenity, letting it sink into her consciousness until it became her natural state. As she maintained this inner sanctuary, the external world began to mirror her assumption. The once hectic ward seemed to organize itself around her presence. Patients responded more calmly, colleagues sought her steadying influence, and even the most challenging situations resolved themselves with unexpected grace. These transformations reveal the power of emotional conviction. When you plant a seed in the soil, you don't dig it up each day to check its progress. Similarly, when you plant an assumption in the fertile field of consciousness, you must let it take root undisturbed by doubt. The law of assumption operates with mathematical precision. Whatever state you occupy in consciousness, the outer world must reflect. Those who persist in assuming lack will find evidence of scarcity at every turn, but those who dare to assume the feeling of their wish fulfilled will discover the universe conspiring to make that assumption fact. Sacred practice. As you prepare for sleep tonight, create a scene that would naturally occur if your desire were already fulfilled. Feel its reality with every fiber of your being. Perhaps you're sharing news of your success with a loved one, or simply feeling the quiet satisfaction of your achievement. Let this scene play in your mind as you drift into slumber, knowing that what you feel as true must outpicture in your world. The drowsy state before sleep is fertile ground for planting such assumptions. Trust that while you rest, unseen forces are working to align reality with your inner knowing. Chapter 3. The Bridge of Incidents. In the ancient hills where wisdom whispers through stone, there lived a merchant named Frederick Stone. Each morning he would gaze at the distant mountains and scoff at tales of manifestation, believing success came only through toil and strain. Yet the universe held a lesson waiting to unfold. One day, Frederick began keeping a private wish to establish a trading route through the treacherous mountain passes that no merchant had mastered before. Though he doubted such dreams, something stirred him to hold this vision each night before sleep. And so began the dance of divine orchestration. First came the unexpected visit of an old mountain guide who spoke of a hidden path through the peaks. Then, a chance meeting with travelers bearing maps of forgotten routes. A sudden storm forced Frederick to shelter in a cave where he discovered ancient markings indicating safe passage. Each coincidence, seemingly random, formed an undeniable pattern leading toward his heart's desire. The law of assumption works thus. When you plant a seed of desire in the fertile soil of consciousness, letting it take root through unwavering assumption, the universe begins its subtle arrangement. Like a master weaver, it threads together circumstances, encounters, and events, each one a necessary step toward manifestation. Eleanor Vasquez, a weaver in the valley below, noticed this same principle at work in her life. She had long visualized opening a school to teach the ancient art of weaving. Without forcing or striving, she observed as former students returned offering help. Neighboring villages requested teachings, and an abandoned building perfectly suited for classes was gifted to her cause. The bridge between desire and manifestation builds itself, plank by plank, through a series of natural occurrences. Each synchronicity, each chance meeting serves as confirmation. The universe moves in response to your assumed reality. This principle reveals that manifestation requires no force, only faith. When you hold an assumption steady in your mind, like a captain sure of his destination, the cosmic currents align to carry you there. The path unfolds not through your effort, but through the eternal law that connects inner conviction to outer circumstance. Ancient practice. As the sun traces its arc across today's sky, observe each event, encounter, and circumstance as a plank being laid upon your bridge to fulfillment. Hold your vision with gentle certainty while maintaining deep gratitude for each sign of progress. Without strain or doubt, watch how the universe aligns circumstances to match your inner knowing. Let each coincidence strengthen your faith in the law that turns assumptions into reality. Chapter 4. the holy imagination. In the shadow-cast halls of an ancient monastery, a wandering merchant named Calvin Reed sought shelter from a storm. As lightning illuminated the weathered scrolls that lined the walls, an elderly monk approached him with a curious gleam in his eyes. "You search for something beyond these walls," the monk observed, "yet what you seek lies within your own divine faculty." Through the long night, the monk revealed to Calvin that imagination was not mere fantasy, but the very eye of the Creator dwelling within every soul. This truth transformed Calvin's understanding. Imagination, wielded with emotional conviction, held power to override the testimony of physical senses. The art of imagination transcends the realm of childish daydreams. It is the sacred instrument through which the divine shapes reality itself. When you grasp this principle, you recognize that what appears as solid circumstance is but the shadow cast by inner vision. Your imagination, joined with unwavering faith, becomes the chisel that sculpts the marble of existence. Consider the tale of Lydia Moore, who discovered this wisdom in her darkest hour. Crushed beneath the weight of past regrets, she learned to reimagine her history not as a chain of sorrows, but as a sequence of perfect unfolding. Each night, she would close her eyes and revisit old wounds, but now she viewed them through the lens of divine purpose and love. As Lydia continued this practice, something extraordinary occurred. Her present circumstances began to shift. Relationships that had seemed irreparably damaged showed signs of healing. Opportunities that had appeared forever lost returned in unexpected ways. She discovered that by reimagining her past with love, she was literally rewriting the energy patterns that shaped her current reality. This power dwells within you now. The events you perceive as past remain alive in consciousness, ready to be transformed by your divine imagination. When you choose to view your history through eyes of love rather than blame, you release the energetic bonds that hold old patterns in place. This is not mere psychological comfort. It is the active wielding of spiritual law. Ancient wisdom practice. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, select one event from your past that still carries emotional charge. Rather than reliving the familiar story of hurt or regret, consciously reimagine the scene saturated with divine love and understanding. Feel the weight of judgment dissolving as you view all involved through eyes of compassion. Allow this new vision to sink deeply into your consciousness, knowing that as you transform the inner picture, outer reality must rearrange itself to match this higher pattern. Let forgiveness be your brush as you repaint the canvas of memory. Chapter 5. The Art of Revision. In the shadow-lined streets of an ancient city walked Edmund Caro, a merchant whose reputation lay in tatters after a failed business venture. Night after night the scene replayed in his mind, standing before his investors, watching their faces turn from trust to disgust. The memory became a poison, seeping into every interaction, every opportunity. Then he discovered an ageless truth. The past lives not in time, but in consciousness. Through this wisdom, Edmund began a sacred practice. Each evening he would close his eyes and revisit that pivotal moment. But now, in his mind's eye, he spoke with unwavering confidence. In this inner theater his investors nodded with approval, their faces bright with admiration. He felt the handshakes, heard the congratulations, experienced the triumph as though it had always been so. The universe holds no calendar. It responds purely to the images impressed upon the mind in the present moment. As Edmund persisted in this practice, an extraordinary transformation unfolded. Former investors began reaching out unexpectedly. New opportunities emerged as if summoned by an unseen hand. His revised memory had become a template for fresh creation. This sacred art of revision reveals itself in the story of Helena Brooks, who faced a daunting legal challenge. Instead of dwelling in anxiety about her upcoming testimony, she devoted her evenings to a powerful ritual. In her mind's sanctuary, she witnessed herself speaking with calm authority. She felt the judge's approving nod, experienced the joy of a favorable verdict, and allowed this vision to saturate her being. When the actual court date arrived, Helena moved through the proceedings as if following a script written in the stars. Her words flowed with natural grace, her presence commanded respect, and the verdict manifested exactly as she had rehearsed in her inner world. The external had no choice but to conform to her internal knowing. These accounts illuminate a profound truth. Your memories are not fixed stones, but living clay, waiting to be reshaped by the divine artist within. The subconscious mind, keeper of all memories, responds not to time, but to the intensity of present impression. When you revise a memory with emotional conviction, you alter not just your perception of the past, but the very substance of your current reality. Practice of revision. As you prepare for sleep tonight, select one memory that has cast shadows upon your path. Settle into a state of peaceful awareness. Now, with the same creative power that dreams the world into being, reimagine this scene. See it unfold with grace and beauty. Feel the warmth of success, the joy of harmony, the peace of perfect resolution. Let this new version sink deeply into your consciousness, accepting it as the true record of events. Fall asleep in the knowing that this revised memory now shapes your present moment, calling forth circumstances that align with your transformed inner world. Chapter 6. The Seed Time of Sleep. In a remote mountain village, Arthur Vail discovered an ancient truth while recovering from illness. During those twilight moments between wakefulness and sleep, he noticed his thoughts took on an unusual potency. The visions that drifted through his mind in this state manifested with startling precision in the following days. The drowsy state holds a sacred power. It is the threshold where the conscious mind relaxes its guard, allowing direct communion with the subconscious realm. In these precious moments, when your thoughts float like leaves on still water, you stand before the very gates of creation. Your subconscious mind is the fertile soil from which all manifestation springs forth. During your waking hours, this soil receives countless seeds, your thoughts, beliefs, and assumptions. Yet it is in the twilight state that these seeds find their deepest root. As your analytical mind surrenders its vigilance, your imaginal acts sink effortlessly into the creative depths of being. Arthur discovered that if he held an image of perfect health while drifting into sleep, his body responded with remarkable vigor by morning. The more he practiced this art, the more he recognized that sleep was not mere rest. It was a holy altar where consciousness plants its most powerful intentions. This wisdom found beautiful expression through Clara Jensen, whose heart ached for reconciliation with her sister after years of silence. Each night, as she lay in bed, Clara would gather her consciousness into a simple scene, sharing laughter with her sister over tea, feeling the warmth of restored connection. She allowed this vision to be her last thought as sleep approached, surrendering it to the vast creative forces that work in darkness. One morning, Clara awoke to find a message waiting, her sister reaching out after dreaming of their childhood happiness. The bridge between them, once thought irreparable, began to mend through the silent workings of night. The hours before sleep are your daily appointment with the infinite. In this sacred space, the veil between desire and manifestation grows thin. Your consciousness, freed from the constraints of physical reality, moves with greater power. Every night offers you this gift, the opportunity to plant pure thought seeds into the fertile soil of universal mind. Remember, the subconscious does not differentiate between what you experience in the physical world and what you experience in imagination. When you drift into sleep holding an image of your fulfilled desire, you deliver this pattern to the very source of creation. Your sleep becomes a temple of transformation, where consciousness reshapes reality in accordance with your vision. Practice. As you prepare for sleep tonight, choose one desire you wish to manifest. Wait until drowsiness begins to soften your thoughts. In this receptive state, bring forth a simple scene that implies your wish fulfilled. Perhaps it is a handshake sealing an agreement, a glimpse of your desired home, or the feeling of perfect health coursing through your body. Hold this image gently. Do not strain to maintain it. Allow it to be your final conscious thought as you drift into sleep, knowing that in these precious moments you commune directly with the creative force of the universe. Trust that while you rest, this seed of desire grows in the invisible realm, preparing to bloom in your waking life. Chapter 7. The Emotional Signature of Reality. In a remote monastery tucked away in the mountains, a wandering merchant named Vincent encountered an aging monk who shared a truth that would transform his understanding of creation. The monk spoke of a sacred practice passed down through generations, the art of feeling one's desires into existence. Thoughts alone are but empty vessels, the monk explained. It is feeling that breathes life into form. Vincent, who had spent years reciting affirmations with little result, began to grasp why his efforts had fallen short. Words without emotional charge were like seeds scattered on barren soil. This wisdom would soon reshape his entire approach to manifestation. The universe responds not to mental gymnastics, but to the magnetic pull of genuine feeling. When you infuse your vision with the rich emotions of fulfillment, gratitude, joy, relief, wonderment, you activate the creative forces that shape reality. Your feelings are the vital force that animates the substance of creation. Consider how a master musician moves audiences not through technical precision alone, but through the depth of feeling conveyed in each note. So, too, must you imbue your desires with authentic emotional resonance. The universe mirrors back not what you think, but what you feel to be true. This principle revealed itself beautifully through the journey of Sabine, a sculptor whose work had gone largely unnoticed despite her considerable talent. Upon learning these ancient teachings, she began spending time each day feeling profound appreciation for commissions she had not yet received. She would run her hands over clay, experiencing deep gratitude for patrons who had not yet appeared. Within weeks, her phone began ringing with unexpected opportunities. Collectors started discovering her work, drawn by an ineffable quality they couldn't quite name. What they felt, without knowing it, was the emotional signature Sabine had infused into her creative process. The key lies not in forcing feelings, but in allowing them to arise naturally through contemplation of your fulfilled desire. Like a master perfumer who knows that subtle notes create the most compelling fragrances, you must learn to cultivate nuanced emotional textures that feel authentic to your being. When doubt arises, as it inevitably will, observe it without resistance, knowing that your emotional baseline will soon return to peaceful certainty. Your task is not to eliminate all contrary feelings, but to strengthen your capacity for sustained positive resonance. Ancient practice. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Close your eyes and bring to mind something you wish to manifest. Now, shifting your attention from the mental image, focus entirely on generating the feeling of already having received it. Let gratitude and relief flood your body. Breathe deeply into these sensations, allowing them to expand with each breath. Continue until this emotional state feels as natural as gravity. Practice this daily, knowing that as you attune yourself to the frequency of fulfillment, external reality must conform to match your inner atmosphere. Let the creative law be written in your heart. What you consistently feel, you invariably attract. The universe responds not to what you wish for, but to what you resonate with in the depths of your being. Chapter 8. The Mirror Law. In the heart of a bustling marketplace, a merchant named George Lang noticed a peculiar pattern. Each day, without fail, harsh words and bitter complaints found their way to his ears. Customers questioned his prices, fellow merchants doubted his goods, and passers-by cast suspicious glances. As the sun set one evening, he discovered an ancient scroll that spoke of the mirror-like nature of existence. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, operates not through judgment, but through perfect reflection. Like a still pond that captures every detail of the sky above, your outer world mirrors the landscape of your inner thoughts and feelings with unwavering precision. George realized that his daily experience of criticism stemmed from the quiet yet persistent voice within that whispered of his unworthiness. This truth extends beyond mere coincidence. It is the foundation upon which all experience rests. When you speak to yourself with harsh judgment, the universe cannot help but echo those very tones through the voices of others. It is not punishment, nor is it reward. It is simply the law of perfect reflection working through the medium of consciousness. In the quiet halls of a music academy, Isla Bennett discovered this same principle through different circumstances. As a violin instructor, she had grown accustomed to seeing herself as merely adequate, never exceptional. Her inner dialogue carried notes of doubt and limitation. Yet upon discovering these ancient teachings, she began a transformation that would alter not only her self-perception, but the very fabric of her daily experience. With conscious intent, Isla replaced each thought of limitation with one of reverence. Where once she had whispered, "I am not enough," she now declared, "I am the embodiment of divine harmony." The shift was not immediate in her thoughts, but the world's response was swift and unmistakable. Students began to praise her teaching with new enthusiasm. Colleagues sought her guidance. Opportunities for prestigious performances appeared as if summoned by an unseen hand. This law operates with mathematical precision. The outer must conform to the inner. Your self-talk creates the template from which all external experience is cast. The words you speak to yourself in the silence of your mind become the script from which the world reads back to you. Sacred practice. As the sun rises tomorrow, begin a sacred communion with your inner voice. Speak to yourself as though you were addressing a beloved child or the wisest teacher. Let each internal word carry the vibration of respect and appreciation you wish to experience in the world. Your task is not to change the world directly, but to alter the source from which its reflection springs. Monitor your inner dialogue with the same care you would give to precious jewels, for each thought is indeed a seed planted in the fertile soil of universal consciousness. As you move through your day, maintain this noble self-talk with unwavering dedication, and watch as the world begins to sing back to you in perfect harmony with your inner song. Chapter 9. The Act of Faithful Vision. In the stillness of dawn, Lawrence Doyle sat in his garden, fighting the urge to acknowledge the pain that had become his constant companion. Years of medical diagnoses had painted a bleak picture, yet something within him whispered of another way. Through his studies of ancient wisdom, he had discovered that the body was but a reflection of inner conviction. Each morning, Lawrence would close his eyes and see himself walking with vitality, feeling the strength course through his limbs. At first, the contrast between his vision and physical reality seemed too great to bridge. But he persisted, knowing that what he held in consciousness must eventually manifest in form. The universe operates through an immutable law. Your outer world must conform to your inner vision when held with unwavering faith. Just as a mirror cannot help but reflect what stands before it, your physical experience cannot help but mirror your sustained mental picture. For 3 months, Lawrence maintained his inner image despite all evidence to the contrary. Then gradually, like ice yielding to spring warmth, his symptoms began to soften. His doctor spoke of spontaneous remission, yet Lawrence recognized the true cause. His inner seeing had finally commanded matter's obedience. Consider now Meredith Cole, who stood in her empty art studio each evening after closing time. Where others saw vacant walls, she witnessed a vibrant gallery filled with admirers studying her paintings. Night after night, she would walk through this imagined scene, feeling the pride and gratitude of success already achieved. She touched the bare walls as though they displayed her finest works. She heard phantom conversations discussing the depth of her artistic vision. She breathed in the atmosphere of accomplishment until it felt more real than the present emptiness. Within 6 months, her imagined gallery manifested in precise detail. The same conversations she had rehearsed in her mind now played out in physical form. The universe, true to its nature, had mirrored her inner conviction with perfect fidelity. These examples illuminate the mirror law's power. What you hold as real in consciousness must reflect in experience. The outer world has no choice in this matter. It is as powerless to resist your inner conviction as a mirror is to resist showing your reflection. Sacred practice. Select one clear photograph that would prove your desire fulfilled. Perhaps it is a picture of you in a specific location, holding an award, or sharing a moment with someone special. Close your eyes and see this image with such clarity that it feels like a memory rather than a wish. Let your logical mind rest as you sink into the reality of this scene. Hold this vision until you feel the subtle shift from imagination to acceptance. This is not mere visualization. It is the planting of a seed that must, by universal law, grow into visible form. Chapter 10. The Law of Reversed Effort. In the tranquil mountains of a distant land, a woodcarver named Philip Cross labored tirelessly at his craft. Each day he would strain and push, forcing his will upon the wood with intense concentration. His hands trembled with desperation as he carved, his mind consumed by thoughts of success that seemed forever out of reach. The harder he tried, the more his creations appeared forced and unnatural. The universe responds not to strain, but to peaceful certainty. When you clutch desperately at your desires, you create resistance that blocks their natural flow. This truth lies at the heart of manifestation. The law operates through calm acceptance rather than forceful demand. Consider how a flower blooms, not through effort, but through quiet unfoldment. The same principle governs all creation. Your role is not to strain, but to assume the natural completion of your desire. When you release the tension of trying to make things happen, you allow the universal forces to arrange circumstances harmoniously. In a village by the sea, Serena Holt discovered this wisdom through her own journey. As a weaver of fine tapestries, she had always pushed herself to the breaking point, believing success required constant struggle. Yet her breakthrough came when she finally surrendered, simply knowing her work would find its perfect expression. She began each morning with the gentle acknowledgement, "It is done," then moved through her day in peaceful certainty. Soon her tapestries seemed to weave themselves, each thread finding its natural place. The universal law operates with mathematical precision, but only through the channel of relaxed awareness. When you release the anxiety of how and when, you open the path for infinite intelligence to accomplish its perfect work. Your task is to maintain the calm, knowing that what you seek is already accomplished in the invisible realm. Practice for embodying relaxed manifestation. Find a quiet space and settle into a comfortable position. Take 3 deep, slow breaths, feeling tension release with each exhale. Now bring your desire to mind, but rather than straining toward it, simply acknowledge, "It is done," with the same casualness as noting the sun has risen. Feel the peace of knowing it is already accomplished. Let this restful certainty be your companion throughout the day. The universe responds not to force, but to faith expressed through calm acceptance. Part 2. The Mechanics of Divine Obedience. Chapter 11. The Subconscious Servant. In the shadowed halls of an ancient temple, a merchant approached the wise one seeking understanding of prayer's deeper mysteries. The sage smiled and revealed, "The temple you seek lies not in stone, but in the sacred chamber of your own mind." Your mind contains 2 distinct aspects: the conscious reasoning mind that questions and debates, and a deeper presence that accepts without argument. This silent servant, your subconscious mind, operates with unwavering devotion to execute whatever is impressed upon it with feeling and faith. It knows no difference between what you fear and what you desire. It simply proceeds to manifest the emotional commands you deliver. When you speak to this deeper mind, you are addressing the very power that orchestrates the universe. Douglas Crane discovered this truth through careful observation of his own thought patterns. Each morning, he would consciously plant seeds of positive expectation in his mind, watching as they grew into visible circumstances with mechanical precision. The more he studied this phenomenon, the more he recognized that his subconscious mind acted as a direct channel to universal intelligence. This faithful servant never sleeps, never tires, and never argues with the images you impress upon it. It accepts your emotional commands as absolute truth and proceeds to arrange circumstances to match that inner conviction. Understanding this mechanism reveals why your habitual feelings manifest so reliably in your outer world. They are treated as instructions from the divine. Consider the experience of Antonia Rivers, who had worn thick glasses since childhood. Upon learning these principles, she began speaking to her subconscious mind with authority, impressing upon it the feeling of perfect vision. She did not argue with present facts, but simply maintained an inner knowing of clear sight. Each night before sleep, she would feel the joy of seeing perfectly, knowing her silent servant would execute this command. Within months, her vision began improving naturally until her glasses became unnecessary. Your subconscious mind awaits your direction with perfect obedience. It asks no questions about possibility or logic. It simply accepts what you tell it with feeling and proceeds to bring that condition into being. This is why emotional conviction matters more than logical argument in the art of manifestation. Sacred practice for commanding the silent servant. Find a quiet moment as day turns to night. Speak one clear statement of your fulfilled desire in the present tense, as though already accomplished. Feel the gratitude and satisfaction of this completion. Let this feeling sink deeply into your being, knowing your faithful inner servant has received its instructions and even now begins its work. Trust in its perfect obedience to your command. Chapter 12. The Power of Inner Conversation. In a bustling marketplace, an ancient merchant named Nathaniel was known for his exquisite wares, yet beneath his outward success a storm brewed within. Each transaction brought forth an inner torrent of self-criticism. You'll never be good enough. They'll discover you're an imposter. Everything will fall apart. These thoughts echoed through his mind like whispers in an empty chamber. The universe responds with perfect precision to the dialogue we maintain with ourselves. This truth stands as fundamental as gravity itself. Your inner conversation shapes the fabric of your experience with unwavering fidelity. The words you speak in the sacred temple of your mind become the architects of tomorrow's reality. What you must understand is that the subconscious mind accepts every statement as a command, regardless of its nature. It makes no distinction between beneficial declarations and harmful ones. It simply executes what it receives with perfect obedience. This faithful servant awaits your instructions, ready to manifest whatever reality you consistently proclaim. A transformative tale emerges from Rebecca, a skilled weaver who lived in fear of her competitors. Each night she would retreat to her chambers and engage in imagined conversations with these rivals. Instead of rehearsing conflict, she chose to speak words of abundance. "There is enough success for all," she would say, directing these thoughts to mental images of those she once feared. "Your prosperity adds to the beauty of our craft," she would continue, filling these virtual dialogues with genuine warmth. As seasons changed, so did the atmosphere in the weaving district. Former rivals began seeking her counsel. Partnerships flourished where competition once ruled, and her business expanded beyond measure. The external shift merely reflected her transformed inner dialogue. Remember, your subconscious cannot distinguish between actual conversations and imagined ones. Every word you speak internally carries the weight of reality. When you shift your inner dialogue from criticism to kindness, from scarcity to abundance, from fear to faith, the outer world must realign to match this new frequency. Your practice today requires neither complex ritual nor elaborate ceremony. Throughout your waking hours, become aware of your internal speech. When you catch yourself in mental argument or doubt, pause. Replace these thoughts with the gentle assurance of your higher self, the part of you that knows all is well. Let every hope be met with a silent yes. Feel the power of this affirmative response resonating through your being. For as the wise ones have long known, change your inner conversation, and you change your world. Ancient practice. Throughout today, replace all inner argument with assurance, hearing your higher self answer yes to every hope. Let this practice continue until the sun sets, and watch as your external world begins to mirror the harmony of your inner dialogue. Chapter 13. The Law of Identification. In the silent shadows of an ancient monastery, a merchant named Sebastian Ward sought refuge from his failing fortunes. Among dusty scrolls, he discovered writings about the sacred power hidden within two simple words, I am. Night after night, he studied these teachings, learning that these words held the key to reality's transformation. The words, I am, serve as the bridge between mortal and divine. They are not mere statements, but sacred declarations that merge your essence with universal power. When you proclaim, I am, you speak with the voice of creation itself. This knowledge has been preserved through ages, whispered in temples and carved in stone, waiting for those ready to grasp its significance. Your inner world shapes itself around these proclamations. Each I am statement plants a seed in the fertile soil of consciousness, growing into the very circumstances you experience. The universe responds not to what you want, but to what you claim you are. This is why prayers of petition often fail while declarations of being succeed, the difference between asking and becoming. Sebastian began implementing this wisdom with trembling voice at first. Instead of begging for prosperity, he declared, I am abundance embodied. Rather than hoping for respect, he stated, I am worthy of reverence. His transformation unfolded not through external change, but through internal conviction. Melanie York, a painter struggling to sell her art, embraced this ancient practice. Each morning before her easel, she would close her eyes and proclaim, I am success expressing through creativity. She infused these words not with desperate hope, but with quiet knowing. Within months, gallery owners began seeking her work. Collectors discovered her pieces, and opportunities emerged as naturally as sunrise. The key lies not in mechanical repetition, but in feeling the truth of your words. When you declare, I am, let each syllable resonate with the power of absolute conviction. Feel the reality of your statement in your very cells. The universe bows to this level of certainty. A woman named Amara found herself drawn to study the stars. Rather than wishing to understand astronomy, she simply stated, I am wisdom embodied in celestial knowledge. Her comprehension deepened, not through effort, but through alignment with this new identity. This ancient truth reveals why some seek endlessly, while others seem to attract their desires effortlessly. Those who succeed have learned to bypass the wanting and claim the being. They understand that manifestation follows identification. Ancient practice. Find a quiet space and center yourself in stillness. With eyes closed, breath steady, declare silently 3 times, "I am the embodiment of my fulfilled desire." Feel each word pulse through your being, replacing uncertainty with unwavering knowing. Let this declaration settle into your consciousness as absolute truth. Before we get into the next chapter, you can download a free ebook version of this audiobook using the link in the pinned comment below this video. Chapter 14. The Creative Word Made Flesh. In a remote mountain village, an aging shepherd named Preston Hale tended his flock beneath sacred peaks. Each morning he whispered blessings to the sun, not from habit but from understanding that words carried creative force. Through years of solitude, he had discovered that imagination combined with spoken word possessed the power to shape reality itself. The ancient wisdom reveals that every phrase uttered with unwavering belief becomes a seed planted in the fertile soil of existence. When consciousness joins with speech, the universe bends to manifest that declaration. This truth lies encoded in creation's earliest moments, the cosmic utterance that birthed worlds from void. Your words are not mere sounds cast into empty air. They are living bridges between thought and form, between the unseen and the manifest. Each statement infused with certainty travels through the ethers of possibility until it crystallizes into physical experience. This is why masters of old guarded their speech with utmost vigilance. They recognized that casual words scattered carelessly could manifest as chaos, while purposeful declarations anchored in faith would bloom as destiny. In a quiet garden on the outskirts of the city, Adelaide Reeve discovered this principle through her beloved plants. Each morning, she would walk among her flowers, speaking words of vitality and growth directly to their essence. Other gardeners dismissed her practice as eccentric fantasy until her roses began blooming in winter and fruit trees bore in impossible seasons. The plants responded not to technique, but to the creative power of her loving declarations. What appeared as miracle to others was simply the natural law of identification at work. Adelaide had learned to merge her consciousness with the life force of her garden through intentional speech. Her words, charged with absolute knowing, became instructions that nature joyfully obeyed. This same power dwells within you now. Your every word carries the potential to alter reality's fabric when spoken from that place of inner knowing. The universe waits to be shaped by your conscious declaration, requiring only that you grasp this truth. Imagination wedded to word becomes flesh. The practice. Find a quiet space where you can be undisturbed. Close your eyes and center your awareness in your heart. Let one phrase of creation rise naturally. Perhaps, "I am boundless peace," or "divine abundance flows through me." Speak it as a gentle whisper, feeling its resonance in your chest. Observe how the very air around you seems to quicken and respond, as though the cosmos itself recognizes its own creative power speaking through you. Let the vibration of your words ripple outward, knowing they have already begun their journey from thought to form. Chapter 15. The Sacred Science of Feeling. It Real. In a distant village lived Julian Kerr, a craftsman who spent years reciting affirmations without result. Each morning he would mechanically state, "Wealth flows to me," while his workshop gathered dust, his voice hollow as empty promises. The words hung lifeless in the air, mere sounds without substance. One evening, as moonlight spilled through his window, Julian witnessed a traveling merchant counting gold coins. Instead of his usual bitter envy, he allowed himself to feel the merchant's joy. That night, Julian spoke his affirmation differently, his voice resonating with the pure delight of abundance already received. His chest expanded with gratitude, his breath steady with certainty, as though wealth already embraced him. By sunrise, 3 unexpected commissions arrived, each bearing generous advance payment. The universe responds not to words alone, but to the emotional current that carries them. When your declarations arise from the heart's conviction, they become living commands that shape reality's clay. Each phrase uttered in authentic feeling becomes a seed planted in fertile soil, destined to sprout into physical form. Consider Nora Pike, whose garden remained barren despite countless affirmations of beauty. One dawn she stopped forcing the words and instead sat quietly, allowing joy to fill her being. As natural as breathing, she whispered, "Beauty surrounds me," while feeling the truth of it deep within. Within weeks, wildflowers appeared unbidden, painting her yard in colors she had never planted. Her neighbors marveled at the transformation, unaware that the change began in Nora's heart, not her soil. This is the ancient wisdom. The creative word, when married to genuine emotion, becomes flesh. Your affirmations must pulse with life, carrying the warmth of certainty rather than the chill of doubt. The universe distinguishes between empty phrases and those charged with feeling-toned conviction. When you speak your desire, let it resonate from your core. Feel its reality in your bones. Taste its fulfillment on your tongue. Your words then become not mere wishes, but commands issued from the throne of consciousness itself. Practice. Find a quiet space and settle into stillness. Choose one desire already fulfilled in your imagination. Now, conjure every sensory detail of that achievement, the sights, sounds, textures, and most importantly, the emotions of accomplishment. Let gratitude saturate your being until wanting dissolves into having. Rest in this atmosphere of completion, knowing your word has already taken form in the unseen. This is not visualization. It is realizing what already exists in the eternal now. Chapter 16. The Law of Non-Resistance. In the heart of a bustling marketplace, a merchant named Marcus Hale stood watching his life's work crumble. His trading business, once prosperous, now faced mounting challenges. With each passing day, he fought harder against the tide of misfortune, his muscles tensing and his mind racing with strategies of resistance. Through the ancient wisdom passed down by sages, Marcus discovered a truth that would transform his understanding. What we resist persists, while what we accept transmutes. The universe operates not through force, but through allowance. When we struggle against our circumstances, we unknowingly anchor them more firmly in place. The law of divine allowance teaches that resistance is a form of focus, and what we focus upon expands. When you push against an unwanted situation, you inadvertently feed it with your energy. The very act of fighting against what is serves only to strengthen its presence in your experience. Within the depths of your consciousness lies an eternal truth. Surrender is not defeat. It is the gateway to transformation. When you release your grip on how things should be, you create space for the infinite intelligence of the universe to rearrange circumstances in your favor. Charlotte Vaughan, a painter whose gallery had sat empty for months, embraced this principle with remarkable results. Instead of anxiously promoting her work or lamenting the lack of visitors, she chose acceptance. Each morning she would sit in her empty gallery and breathe in peace, knowing that divine timing orchestrated all things perfectly. Within weeks, art collectors began appearing as if summoned by an unseen hand. The power of acceptance lies not in passive resignation, but in active alignment with the flow of life. When you cease to resist what is, you free up the energy needed for transformation. Your acceptance becomes the very catalyst for change. Marcus learned to loosen his grip on control. Rather than fighting against business challenges, he began to greet each obstacle with the thought, "This too serves my highest good." As tension dissolved, solutions emerged naturally. Opportunities he couldn't have planned appeared, as if the universe had been waiting for him to step out of his own way. Your circumstances are not your enemies. They are messengers bearing gifts of growth. When you meet them with acceptance rather than resistance, their purpose becomes clear. The very situations you once fought against become stepping stones to your desired outcome. Sacred practice. Sit quietly in a comfortable position. Close your eyes and bring to mind a situation that has been causing you distress. Rather than pushing against it, whisper gently, "It has already worked out perfectly." Feel the relief wash over you as you release the need to control. Let this feeling of ease become your natural state, knowing that divine order flows through acceptance, not resistance. Chapter 17. The Harmony of Infinite Being. In a bustling marketplace, Quentin Price watched merchants haggle over prices, each desperate to outdo their competitors. As he observed their struggles, understanding dawned like sunrise over still waters. These weren't separate beings fighting for limited resources. They were expressions of the same infinite consciousness, each playing their role in an eternal dance. Through meditation, Quentin had glimpsed this truth. The universe wasn't divided but unified in an ocean of awareness. What appeared as competition was merely the illusion of separation, like waves thinking themselves distinct from the sea. When one truly grasped this principle, the need to compete dissolved into cooperation with the whole. The law of one consciousness reveals that abundance flows not through combat, but through recognition of unity. When you bless another's success, you bless yourself, for there is no true division between souls. Your neighbor's gain becomes your gain. Your rival's victory becomes your victory, for all emerge from the same source of infinite potential. Delphine Cross discovered this wisdom when her art gallery struggled against a new competitor. Instead of responding with resentment, she began sending genuine blessings to her rival's success each morning. She visualized both galleries flourishing together, serving different aspects of the same creative spirit. Within months, an unexpected shift occurred. Her competitors' clients began spreading word of her gallery as well. The market expanded to support both, and her income doubled without diminishing anyone else's prosperity. This mirrors an ancient truth. What you wish upon others returns to you multiplied. The universe operates not through subtraction, but through multiplication. When you release the grip of competition and embrace the flow of unified consciousness, abundance rushes in through unexpected channels. Those who grasp this principle find themselves lifted by the success of others rather than threatened by it. They understand that every blessing sent outward must return, for the law of consciousness ensures perfect reflection. In blessing others, you activate the principle of multiplication rather than division. The practice. Close your eyes and bring to mind someone whose success you envy. Feel the constriction in your heart dissolve as you sincerely wish them even greater abundance. Visualize their prosperity multiplying tenfold, knowing the same force must flow back to you. Repeat silently. Your success is my success. Your abundance is my abundance. For we are one in the infinite source of all good. Chapter 18. The Science of Prayer. In the ancient streets of a desert city, a wandering mystic named Alexander Rhodes sought shelter in a humble temple. Night after night he observed the faithful kneeling in supplication, their voices rising in desperate pleas. Yet their prayers seemed to echo unanswered against stone walls, until one evening, when an aging sage approached him, with eyes that held the wisdom of centuries. You watch them pray, but you do not understand the true nature of prayer, the sage whispered. They ask as beggars at a closed door, when they are already masters of an infinite palace. Through the sage's teachings, Alexander discovered that authentic prayer was not a petition to an external power, but rather the soul's recognition of what already exists in the infinite realm. When he began to pray from this understanding, assuming the state of his desire fulfilled, his words carried the weight of creation itself. The universe responds not to what we request, but to what we have become in consciousness. Prayer, in its highest form, is the act of stepping into the reality where your desire already exists. It is feeling the gratitude of fulfillment before physical evidence appears. This is the sacred science that transforms prayer from hopeful pleading into creative command. Consider Vivienne West, who discovered this truth during her darkest hour. Rather than beseeching for peace, she would sit in silence each evening, allowing herself to feel the serenity she sought as if it were already present. She would breathe it in, let it fill her being, until the very air around her seemed charged with tranquility. Within weeks, her external world began to mirror this inner state, as though reality itself had no choice but to conform to her sustained assumption. The secret lies not in the words spoken, but in the feeling tone that accompanies them. When you pray, you are not trying to convince the universe to grant your wish. You are aligning yourself with what is already ordained in the spiritual realm. This is why the Masters taught that thanksgiving is the highest form of prayer. When you give thanks for what you desire as though it is already yours, you demonstrate the faith that moves mountains. The art of prayer requires you to abandon the habit of seeing what is not wanted and replace it with the discipline of feeling what is desired. This feeling must be so real, so tangible, that your whole being resonates with its truth. In this state, prayer becomes not an act of asking, but an act of receiving. Sacred practice. As you prepare for sleep tonight, enter the chamber of prayer within your heart. Choose one desire that burns within you. Rather than asking for its fulfillment, assume the state of its completion. Feel the profound relief and gratitude that naturally accompanies its realization. Let this feeling be your prayer, your offering to the infinite. Stay in this state until sleep embraces you, knowing that what you have felt in consciousness must materialize in your world. Chapter 19. The Secret of Divine Interval. In the quietude of an ancient monastery garden, Francis Doyle paced beneath stone arches, his footsteps matching the rhythm of his restless heart. Each day he had visualized his healing center, felt its warmth, heard the grateful voices of those who would find solace within its walls. Yet months passed, and the physical manifestation remained elusive. As morning mist wrapped around weathered pillars, Francis observed a dormant rosebud, tightly wound and seemingly unchanging. An aging monk, noticing his gaze, shared wisdom carried through centuries. Nature never hurries, yet all is accomplished. In that moment, Francis understood. What appeared as delay was actually divine gestation. The universe operates through precise spiritual laws. When you plant a seed in consciousness, an interval must follow, not as punishment or denial, but as sacred space where vibrations stabilize and form takes shape. This waiting period serves as the womb of manifestation, where ethereal becomes material. Just as a mother cannot rush the development of her child, you cannot force the materialization of your vision before its natural season. The divine interval is not empty space, but rather fertile ground where unseen forces orchestrate countless details aligning perfectly for your good. Eloise Carr discovered this truth while awaiting news of her art gallery's opening. Rather than resist the pause, she began thanking it daily, recognizing it as evidence that greater forces were at work. Her gratitude shifted focus from absence to abundance in waiting. When anticipation transformed into peaceful acceptance, the gallery manifested, more magnificent than originally imagined. The law operates with mathematical precision. Intensity of desire plus allowance of divine timing equals perfect manifestation. Doubt lengthens the interval. Trust shortens it. Your role is not to force the bloom, but to maintain the feeling of fulfillment while divine wisdom arranges the perfect sequence of events. Consider how a symphony requires precise timing between notes. The pauses between are not empty, they are pregnant with potential, giving meaning to the music itself. Similarly, your manifestation's timing is orchestrated by infinite intelligence that sees the complete pattern of your life's symphony. The key lies not in eliminating the interval, but in revolutionizing your relationship with it. Each moment of waiting carries divine purpose, the exact time needed for people, circumstances, and energies to align perfectly for your highest good. Sacred practice. Find a quiet space and close your eyes. Breathe deeply and whisper, "Everything ripens in perfect rhythm." Feel the peace of knowing universal forces are orchestrating your good. Release the need to control timing. Rest in the certainty that your desire is already fulfilled in the invisible realm, emerging in visible form at the precise moment of maximum benefit. Repeat this practice whenever impatience arises, allowing divine timing to work its perfect way. Chapter 20. The Law Fulfilled. In the shadows of an ancient monastery garden, Benedict Shore sat in meditation, his years of spiritual practice weighing heavily upon his shoulders. For decades he had pursued enlightenment with fervent dedication, until one morning, as the sun painted the stone walls with golden light, understanding dawned with startling clarity. The very act of seeking had been the obstacle all along. The universe operates through an exquisite law. When consciousness claims its divine inheritance, the chase dissolves into being. What you are, you need not become. What you possess in consciousness requires no further pursuit. This truth echoes through the corridors of time. The fulfilled law liberates desire itself. When you truly understand that you are what you seek, the seeking ends. The manifestations that once appeared as miracles transform into natural scenery, as ordinary as breathing, as effortless as dawn following night. Consider the transformation of Thalia Grant. For years she struggled as an aspiring artist, her creativity bound by the very identity of becoming. Each brushstroke carried the weight of proving herself worthy. Then came the moment of surrender, not to defeat, but to truth. She ceased painting to become an artist, and instead painted because she was one. The shift was subtle, yet profound. "I am the art itself," she declared one evening in her studio. From that moment her canvases began to breathe with life. Galleries that once seemed fortressed now opened their doors. Critics who had been silent now spoke her name with reverence. Yet these external changes held little significance compared to the inner liberation she had found. The flow of inspiration through her brush became as natural as water finding its course downstream. She no longer painted to achieve. She painted because creation was her nature. The struggle had transformed into dance, the effort into expression. This truth stands eternal. When you release the need to become, you free yourself to be. The universe responds not to your seeking, but to your knowing. When consciousness rests in fulfillment, reality has no choice but to mirror this inner certainty. The teachings whispered through centuries reveal this secret. Manifestation follows being, not striving. Your natural state is completion. Your birthright is abundance. Your true identity already holds everything you have been seeking. The sacred practice handed down through ages invites you to step into this truth. Walk today as one who already possesses the promise. Move through your hours not as one hoping to arrive, but as one who has already reached the destination. Watch as reality bows gracefully before the authority of your consciousness, rearranging itself to match your inner knowing. This ancient wisdom illuminates the path. When you cease pursuing what you already are, the universe ceases withholding what was always yours. Ancient practice. As you move through this day, embody the consciousness of fulfillment. Walk, speak, and breathe as one who already possesses their heart's desire. Notice how reality begins to align with your inner certainty, bowing gracefully before the truth of your being. Let each step be a declaration of completion rather than a movement toward it. Part 3. The Practice of Commanding Reality. Chapter 21. The Law Behind the Law. In the heart of winter, Edward Mason sat surrounded by countless spiritual texts in his study, their chapters worn from years of devoted examination. Night after night, he pored over Neville's teachings, seeking the ultimate key to manifestation. Then, as morning light pierced through his window, understanding crystallized with the clarity of dawn. Every metaphysical principle, every spiritual law, every sacred teaching pointed to a singular truth. Awareness alone creates reality. The myriad rules governing manifestation were but branches sprouting from this one eternal root. The law of attraction, the law of vibration, the law of correspondence. All these were simply different expressions of the same fundamental power, pure consciousness. This revelation transformed Edward's approach to spiritual practice. Rather than juggling multiple techniques or following complex manifestation formulas, he settled into the simplicity of being aware. The universe responded not to methods, but to the state of consciousness itself. As if to validate this truth, Lucia Barrett's experience unfolded with remarkable grace. A lifelong student of metaphysics, she had grown weary of specific manifestation protocols. One morning she chose simply to assume the state of pure joy, making no demands of the universe, specifying no particular outcomes. Within weeks her life transformed. Financial abundance flowed effortlessly. An unexpected inheritance, a spontaneous promotion, investments yielding unprecedented returns. Relationships blossomed naturally. Old friends reconnected, new bonds formed, and love flourished in surprising ways. Even her chronic ailments began to fade, her body responding to the pure light of consciousness. "I ceased trying to manipulate reality," she later shared, "and instead allowed awareness itself to orchestrate my life." This truth echoes through the ages. Consciousness is the sole creative force in the universe. All techniques, all methods, all practices serve only to align awareness with its inherent creative power. When you grasp this, manifestation becomes effortless, not because you have mastered the art of creating, but because you have remembered that you are creation itself. The universe responds not to your actions, but to your state of awareness. Every circumstance, every condition, every experience springs forth from this divine soil of consciousness. When you understand this, you need not labor to change external conditions. Simply shift your awareness, and reality reshapes itself accordingly. Let your awareness rest in the feeling of fulfillment, and watch as the universe orchestrates circumstances to match this inner knowing. Make no demands, set no conditions. Simply be aware of being that which you desire to be. The external world has no choice but to reflect your state of consciousness. This is the one law from which all others flow. Awareness is all, and all is awareness. Your role is not to force creation, but to assume the consciousness of your desire fulfilled. Then, with the quietness of dawn breaking, your world transforms to match your inner knowing. Ancient practice. Throughout your day, remind yourself gently, "I am awareness aware of being fulfilled," and watch events align in quiet obedience. Let this truth sink deep into your being. Awareness alone is the creator of all that appears. Chapter 22. The Divine Imagination at Work. In the quiet hours before dawn, Nathan Cole sat in meditation, pondering the ancient truth that had crystallized in his awareness. Instead of focusing on his own desires, he turned his imaginative powers toward others, discovering a magnificent secret hidden in plain sight. Night after night, he held visions of his neighbors, friends, and even strangers experiencing their heart's fulfillment. As he did so, an extraordinary phenomenon unfolded. His own life began overflowing with unexpected blessings. The universe responded not merely to his individual wishes, but multiplied its gifts when imagination expanded to embrace all. The truth revealed itself with pristine clarity. When consciousness rises above personal gain to envision collective joy, the law operates with heightened potency. This was not mere coincidence, but the very architecture of creation, a system designed to reward the recognition of unity. Caroline Reyes uncovered this same principle when her sister's business faced collapse. Rather than worry, she dedicated her evening practice to seeing her sister's triumph as vividly as if it were happening in the present moment. She felt the warmth of her sister's smile, heard the joy in her voice announcing success, and experienced the shared celebration as if it were already real. Within weeks, an inexplicable series of fortunate events transformed both their circumstances. Her sister's business not only recovered, but flourished beyond expectation. Simultaneously, Caroline's own career soared to new heights, though she had made no direct effort toward it. The law had responded to her selfless vision with doubled grace. This reveals the profound truth. Imagination achieves its greatest power when wielded not for self alone, but for the upliftment of all. When you transcend the illusion of separation and imagine from the viewpoint of unified consciousness, reality reshapes itself with magnificent efficiency. The universe honors this expanded awareness by manifesting conditions that benefit the whole. This is not mystical theory, but practical metaphysics, the law behind all laws operating at its highest frequency. Sacred practice. As the stars emerge tonight, settle into a space of calm receptivity. Bring to mind someone you deeply care about who seeks their own breakthrough or blessing. See them radiating with the joy of fulfillment, their wish already granted. Allow yourself to feel their happiness as if it were your own. Notice how the boundaries between your joy and theirs naturally dissolve into a single celebration. Rest in this unified field of completion until sleep draws near, knowing the law is already in motion. Chapter 23. The Vision Sustained. In the heart of an ancient monastery, a weary merchant named Oliver Blake sought wisdom from an aging sage. Despite his initial victories with the law of imagination, doubt had crept back into his mind like a persistent shadow. Each morning he would wake to find his carefully constructed visions dissolving in the harsh light of apparent reality. "Master," he whispered, "the magic works, then fails. What am I missing?" The sage smiled, reaching for a copper pot. "Watch this water," he instructed, placing it over a flame. "Does it boil the moment heat touches its surface?" Oliver shook his head. "Yet we know with absolute certainty that it will boil. The law of heat remains constant. It is our patience that wavers. Imagination works the same way. The universe responds not to sporadic faith, but to unwavering conviction." Through this encounter, Oliver discovered that imagination's true power lay not in occasional practice, but in sustained belief. Like a gardener who cannot dig up seeds daily to check their progress, he learned to trust the invisible process of manifestation. The law reveals itself with crystalline clarity. Imagination is not mere fantasy, but a discipline disguised as delight. Each lapse into disbelief reverts the field to inertia, requiring renewed effort to restore momentum. The power lies not in perfect practice, but in persistent return to truth. Consider Amelia Ford, who transformed her failing art gallery into a cultural cornerstone. When doubt arose, she simply renewed her inner knowing that success was certain. Each morning, she walked her empty gallery spaces, seeing them filled with admirers. Each evening, She counted imaginary receipts with gratitude. Most crucially, when reality seemed to contradict her vision, she doubled down on her inner conviction. Within months, her gallery began attracting prestigious artists. Within a year, it became the talk of the city. The key was not that she never doubted, but that she refused to let doubt take permanent residence in her mind. The mechanism is clear. Imagination held steady eventually commands circumstance. Like water maintaining its temperature despite momentary fluctuations, your inner vision must maintain its heat despite temporary cooling from external events. Sacred practice. When evidence stands against your desire, retreat to inner sanctuary. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and revisit the scene of your fulfillment. Feel its reality with every sense. Smile knowingly, understanding that resistance marks not failure, but the birthing pains of demonstration. Let your certainty grow stronger precisely when outer facts seem to deny it. For in this persistence lies the secret of all manifestation. Chapter 24. The Silence That Commands. In the shadows of an ancient monastery garden, Dominic Hale discovered a truth that would transform his understanding of manifestation. Day after day he watched as monks tended their flowers in complete silence, never speaking of the blooms they desired, yet their garden flourished beyond measure. Their secret lay not in what they said, but in their unwavering inner certainty. This principle extends far beyond monastery walls into the very fabric of creation itself. When you cease wrestling with current circumstances and instead maintain steadfast inner knowing, the universe yields to your silent command. It is not through constant declaration that your desires manifest, but through the quiet power of unshakable conviction. The outer world presents a continuous stream of evidence contrary to your desires. Yet those who master manifestation learn to hold their vision with the same certainty with which they know the sun will rise. They understand that apparent reality is merely the shadow of past thoughts, while present consciousness determines future experience. Consider Veronica Chase, who had spent years reciting affirmations about prosperity without result. One day, she ceased all verbal declarations and instead cultivated a deep, wordless knowing of abundance. She moved through her days carrying this silent assurance, never arguing with appearances, never trying to convince herself or others. Within months, opportunities began flowing as if orchestrated by an unseen hand. The power lies not in the words spoken, but in the feeling maintained. When you truly grasp this principle, you'll understand why some achieve with quiet confidence what others fail to manifest despite endless affirmations. The universe responds not to volume, but to the depth of your conviction. Let your consciousness rest in the end, result as naturally as you rest in the knowledge of your own name. No debate is necessary, no constant reassurance required. Like the monks in their garden, allow your inner knowing to remain undisturbed by outer conditions. The external world has no choice but to reshape itself around your sustained vision. Ancient practice of silent command. Find a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. Close your eyes and release all tension from your body. For 1 minute, abandon all words and simply rest in the feeling of your desire fulfilled. Don't try to convince yourself. Simply be with the natural sensation of completion as if it were already done. Let this wordless knowing speak to the universe with the quiet authority of truth itself. Chapter 25. The Law of Reflection and Projection. In a bustling marketplace in the ancient city of Tyre, a merchant named Clayton Ward found himself embroiled in yet another heated dispute over prices. As voices rose and tempers flared, a familiar sensation washed over him. He had lived this exact moment before, in Damascus, in Alexandria, in Athens. The faces changed, but the underlying tension remained constant. One evening, as he sat beneath the stars, an aged mystic approached his stall. Without speaking a word, the sage merely pointed to Clayton's reflection in a polished bronze mirror. In that moment, understanding dawned like the first rays of morning sun. He was the unchanging element in this repeating drama. The outer world, in its infinite wisdom, had been showing Clayton his own inner turmoil. Each marketplace simply mirrored the battlefield he carried within. His expectation of conflict summoned its physical expression as surely as rain follows gathering clouds. This truth lies at the heart of all manifestation. Your environment cannot help but reflect your inner definition of self. The universe, in its perfect obedience, must present you with experiences that match your deepest assumptions. It is not punishment or reward, but the flawless operation of cosmic law. Consider the transformation of Cassandra Pierce, who wandered the trade routes as a traveling scribe. For years, she viewed herself as one who must fight for survival, and the world faithfully presented her with countless opportunities to prove this belief true. Yet when she discovered this principle, she made a radical shift. Instead of seeing herself as one who must struggle, she claimed her sovereign nature. She began to move through the world as though it were her kingdom, treating each person she met as though they were sent to assist her journey. The change in her external reality was swift and dramatic. Where once she encountered suspicion, she now found doors opening wide. Markets that had seemed hostile became havens of opportunity. Strangers who might have been threats transformed into allies and friends. The world had not changed. She had changed her inner command, and reality reshaped itself accordingly. This principle operates with mathematical precision. Your circumstances are not random events, but the precise externalization of your self-concept. The power to transform your experience lies not in controlling outer conditions, but in revising your inner dialogue with existence. The practice. Before reacting to any situation today, whisper, "This is my projection returning to be blessed," and feel power quietly return to you. Chapter 26. The Divine Paradox of Effortless Action. In the ancient mountains of the East, a wise teacher once shared the tale of a young sculptor named Kai. Each morning, he would force his chisel against marble, muscles tense with determination, yet his works remained lifeless. One day, exhausted from striving, he sat in silence before an untouched block. As peace filled his being, he saw the finished sculpture so clearly within that his hands moved as if guided by an unseen force. That piece now stands as his masterpiece. The universe responds not to physical exertion, but to inner conviction. When Preston Lyle pursued his goals with clenched fists and gritted teeth, success remained eternally out of reach. His actions, though numerous, arose from anxiety rather than inspiration. Each step felt like pushing against an invisible wall until he discovered the sacred truth. outer movement must flow from inner certainty. The law of inspired action reveals that all genuine power originates in stillness. When your inner world holds the feeling of fulfillment with unwavering faith, outer action becomes as natural as breathing. You need not force the river of manifestation. Your role is to align with its current through absolute knowing. Consider Miranda Keller, who transformed her approach to achievement. Rather than rushing to action, she waited until her inner state crystallized into complete acceptance of her desire's fulfillment. Only when movement felt inevitable did she step forward. The results unfolded with an ease that seemed miraculous to others, but natural to her aligned consciousness. This principle operates with mathematical precision. Action born of anxiety creates more reasons for anxiety. Action flowing from peace multiplies peace. The outer world must mirror your inner state. This is the immutable law of consciousness. When you move from certainty, the universe conspires to confirm your conviction. Your task is not to make things happen, but to allow them to happen through you. This distinction holds the key to effortless manifestation. When inner alignment is complete, inspired action arrives as a gentle nudge, an irresistible inclination that feels more like being moved than moving. Miranda discovered that true power lies in discerning between forced action and inspired movement. She learned to recognize the signature of divine timing. When urge and peace arrive together, that is your cue to move. When effort feels strained, it signals the need to return to your inner temple of imagination until joy naturally propels you forward. Ancient practice. Sit in silence each morning. Notice the quality of any impulse to act. Does it arise from anxiety or peace? When you feel internal pressure, breathe deeply and return to the feeling of your desire fulfilled. Move only when action feels as natural as a leaf floating downstream. Let your physical steps echo the certainty already established within. Chapter 27. The Secret of Inner Music. In the depths of an ancient monastery, a master craftsman worked tirelessly at his wooden flute. Day after day, he carved and shaped until at last the instrument sang true. Yet when asked about his secret, he simply smiled and said, "I do not make the music. I discover the song already hidden in the wood." The truth of manifestation resonates at frequencies beyond human hearing. When Anthony Drake first noticed the subtle tones during his morning meditations, he dismissed them as imagination. But as his practice deepened, he recognized these harmonics as confirmation of alignment with universal law. The sounds emerged not from external sources, but from the very resonance of thought meeting divine order. Just as a tuning fork vibrates in sympathy with its matching frequency, your consciousness naturally aligns with the cosmic symphony when imagination and belief harmonize. This alignment manifests as a felt tone, a knowing beyond knowledge, a certainty beyond proof. Evelyn Moore discovered this principle through an unconscious practice. Each morning she would hum softly to herself while giving thanks for the day ahead. What began as a simple ritual evolved into a powerful attunement. She noticed that on days when her humming felt particularly resonant, unexpected blessings would unfold. A chance meeting would lead to an opportunity, a wrong turn would result in a fortunate discovery, or a delayed appointment would spare her from mishap. The universe does not respond to force, but to frequency. When your inner state achieves coherence with divine mind, reality rearranges itself without strain. This is why some manifestations arrive effortlessly while others remain stubbornly distant. The difference lies not in worthiness, but in resonance. The ancient mystics understood this. Their chants and sacred sounds were not mere ritual, but technology of consciousness. Through sustained tones, they brought their awareness into harmony with universal law. The same principle operates whether through voice, thought, or feeling. What matters is the achievement of sympathetic vibration with your desire's fulfillment. The practice. Find a quiet space and sit comfortably. Begin to hum softly, allowing the vibration to fill your chest. Don't force any particular note. Let your voice find its natural resonance. As you continue, focus on the sensation of the sound in your body. When you feel a subtle shift, a moment where the tone seems to deepen and settle, rest there. This resonance is your signature of alignment. Hold it gently, knowing that in this harmony, all things arrange themselves in perfect order. Chapter 28. The Alchemy of Surrender and Power. In a quiet mountain village, Gregory Vale stood at the precipice of ruin. His business, carefully planned to the last detail, teetered on collapse despite his iron grip on every process. Each morning he woke before dawn to review spreadsheets, analyze market trends, and orchestrate responses to every conceivable challenge. Yet the more desperately he clutched at control, the more swiftly success slipped through his fingers. In his darkest hour, a mysterious text arrived from an unknown number. The river does not push its way to the ocean. At first, Gregory dismissed the message as spam, but the words haunted him. That night, exhausted beyond measure, he did something unprecedented. He closed his laptop without checking his emails one final time. For the first time in years, he slept deeply, awakening to find his mind unusually clear. As he watched the sunrise paint the mountains, understanding dawned. His relentless control was like trying to direct each individual wave in a vast ocean. The universe operates through perfect efficiency, requiring no manipulation from human will. Just as a flower needs no instruction to bloom, reality unfolds through an intelligence far superior to conscious planning. Your role is not to force outcomes, but to align with the current that already knows its destination. When Gregory finally surrendered his grip on circumstances, remarkable shifts began occurring. A competitor he had fought for years unexpectedly proposed a merger that would save both companies. Solutions appeared effortlessly for problems he had struggled with for months. His staff, no longer constrained by his micromanagement, began innovating in ways he never imagined possible. Similarly, Serena Knight spent years crafting elaborate 5-year plans, convinced that success required mapping every possible variable. Her breakthrough came when illness forced her to abandon her careful strategies for 3 months. During this period of enforced rest, opportunities she had long pursued suddenly materialized without effort. Major clients reached out unprompted, and collaborative projects fell into place with an ease that seemed almost magical. The great paradox of manifestation reveals itself in this principle. True power lies not in forcing reality to bend to your will, but in aligning with the infinite intelligence that orchestrates all things. When you release your grip on the how, the universe's perfect efficiency can operate unimpeded. This is not passive resignation, but active surrender, a profound trust in the wisdom that orchestrates galaxies. Your role is to hold the vision of the end result while releasing attachment to the means of its arrival. Sacred practice. When tension arises today, pause and soften your shoulders. Take a deep, releasing breath and whisper these words with genuine surrender. I release into divine efficiency. Feel the shift as universal intelligence assumes command, allowing solutions to emerge naturally through its perfect orchestration. Chapter 29. The Light Behind the Shadow. In the twilight hours of an autumn evening, Patricia Howe discovered her business partner had diverted company funds for personal gain. Rather than succumbing to rage or seeking retribution, she sat in quiet meditation, remembering the ancient wisdom. Every shadow cast reveals where light must flow. Within the depths of betrayal, Patricia uncovered a profound truth about the nature of manifestation. The very presence of darkness outlined precisely where illumination yearned to emerge. Instead of fighting against the circumstance, she chose to use it as a compass, pointing toward greater abundance. The universe operates through perfect balance. Where emptiness appears, fullness rushes to fill the void. When you encounter opposition, it serves as a precise indicator of which aspects of consciousness require strengthening. The shadow does not come to destroy, but to reveal where your light must shine more brightly. Derek Marsh embodied this principle when faced with a colleague who attempted to undermine his position at work. Instead of engaging in conflict, he chose to hold a vision of that person surrounded by success and fulfillment. Each morning, he blessed his adversary with genuine goodwill. Within weeks, an unexpected reorganization opened new opportunities for both of them. Derek received a promotion to a different division, while his colleague found success in another role. This illustrates the supreme law. What you resist persists, but what you bless multiplies. Opposition exists not as punishment, but as a catalyst for expanding consciousness. Every challenge arrives bearing a gift, the opportunity to strengthen your conviction in the power of divine love. When circumstances appear to oppose your desires, they actually reveal where your imagination must work more purposefully. The contrast between what is and what could be serves as the creative tension from which new realities emerge. By blessing what seems to block you, you transmute the very energy of resistance into fuel for manifestation. Each shadow in your path marks the exact location where light wishes to pour through you. By maintaining unwavering faith in the face of opposition, you demonstrate mastery over the law of consciousness. The darkness does not come to defeat you. It arrives to show you precisely where to direct your creative power. The practice. When darkness appears in your experience today, pause and whisper, I thank this shadow for revealing where my light must shine. In blessing this contrast, I transform it into the foundation of greater good. Feel genuine gratitude for the clarifying power of opposition, knowing it serves only to strengthen your conviction in the supremacy of divine love. Chapter 30. The Infinite Mirror of Others. A merchant wandered through the marketplace, troubled by the constant rudeness he encountered. Each day brought fresh insults and dismissive treatment from those he met. One evening, he discovered an ancient text that spoke of a hidden truth. The world reflects what dwells within. Caleb Frost immersed himself in Neville's teachings until he stumbled upon this transformative revelation. Every person in your world is yourself pushed out. The universe operates not as a collection of separate beings, but as an infinite mirror, reflecting back your deepest beliefs about yourself and life. This principle unveils the profound mechanics behind human interaction. Those you encounter do not act from their own independent will, but respond according to the beliefs you hold about yourself and others. Your world becomes a living theater where every player performs the script written by your consciousness. When you believe yourself unworthy of respect, the entire cast assumes roles that confirm this conviction. Each slight and criticism arrives not by chance, but by invitation, summoned by your own self-concept. Yet, in this revelation lies extraordinary power. Change the inner assumption, and the outer performance must follow. Lydia Trask lived this truth. For years, she encountered hostile colleagues and difficult clients in her consulting practice. Each interaction seemed to reinforce her deep-seated belief that she didn't deserve kindness. Then she discovered this law of consciousness and began a subtle inner transformation. Each night before sleep, she revised her self-image, seeing herself as inherently worthy of respect and consideration. She didn't try to change others directly, but focused solely on shifting her own self-concept. Within weeks, the same people who had treated her harshly began responding with unexpected warmth. Her most challenging client, known for bitter criticism, suddenly started praising her work. Colleagues who had previously ignored her now sought her counsel. The outer transformation appeared miraculous, yet it followed the precise law of consciousness. When you change your self-concept, others must shift to match this new assumption. The world you see is not filled with separate beings acting independently, but with reflections of your own consciousness taking form through others. Every interaction serves as a mirror, revealing beliefs you may not even know you hold. This understanding grants you tremendous power, not to control others, but to transform your experience by adjusting your self-concept. The ancient practice. When someone's behavior disturbs your peace, pause and turn inward. Ask yourself gently, what thought or belief within me has drawn forth this reflection? Rather than attempting to change the other person, examine what aspect of your consciousness they mirror. Then, with loving attention, adjust your self-concept until you see yourself worthy of the treatment you desire. As your inner image transforms, watch as the outer world rearranges itself to match your new assumption. Part 4. The Metaphysics of Ultimate Mastery. Chapter 31. The Fire of Determined Imagination. A merchant traveled between distant villages carrying precious gems. In each town, locals mocked his claims about a legendary stone of immense value he sought. Yet he continued his search, describing its unique properties with unwavering certainty. Years passed, and those who once ridiculed began seeking his wisdom, for his conviction had manifested not just one precious stone, but an entire treasury of rare gems. The power of sustained vision transcends the temporary storms of doubt that others may cast. When you hold fast to your inner knowing, external resistance becomes merely the wind that strengthens your roots. This truth echoes through the ages. That which you nurture in consciousness, despite all opposition, must ultimately emerge into physical form. Consider how the mighty oak exists first as a tender shoot, vulnerable to every element. Yet through unwavering adherence to its internal blueprint, it transforms into an unshakable presence. Your vision holds this same power when tended with devoted persistence. Opposition to your dreams serves as the crucible that purifies your intention. Each voice of doubt presents an opportunity to deepen your conviction. When you choose to love your vision more than you fear others' skepticism, you activate an ancient alchemical process, the transformation of resistance into support. The universe responds not to intermittent wishes, but to sustained conscious command. Like a master sculptor who sees the finished form within the untouched stone, you must hold your vision with such clarity that temporary circumstances cannot dim its reality in your mind. Your persistence signals to the cosmic law that you have moved beyond mere wanting into the realm of being. This shift in consciousness, from hoping to knowing, initiates the invisible machinery of manifestation. The very energy that once expressed as resistance must reorganize itself to support your unwavering belief. Remember, ridicule arrives only when your vision threatens the limitations others have accepted for themselves. Your steadfast faith, despite their doubt, serves as a light that eventually dissolves their shadows of disbelief. As you maintain your inner vision with loving devotion, those who once mocked will find themselves drawn to the very truth they previously denied. The law operates with mathematical precision. Sustained consciousness must externalize itself, regardless of apparent obstacles. Time is not your enemy in this process, but your ally, allowing your vision to gather the substance required for its perfect expression. Practice. Each morning and evening, sit quietly with your vision. Breathe life into it with the warmth of your attention, as if tending a sacred flame. Let love, not force, be your method. Feel its reality deepening within you, knowing that this inner conviction is the very substance from which your desire will emerge. Maintain this practice with the same devotion you would give to nurturing a rare and precious plant, understanding that your sustained attention is the light and water it needs to grow into full manifestation. Chapter 32. The Law of Harmonious Exchange. In the quiet hills beyond the city, a merchant named Vincent Hale pondered the mystery of his success. Though his competitors hoarded their knowledge and guarded their secrets, Vincent freely shared his insights with anyone who asked. To his amazement, the more wisdom he gave away, the more his own fortunes multiplied. One autumn morning, as golden leaves danced on the wind, Vincent discovered the ancient truth that would transform his understanding forever. The universe operates in perfect circulation, like breath moving in and out, like waves rising and falling. Every act of genuine giving creates a vacuum that must be filled. The key lies not in calculating what you might receive, but in the pure joy of offering your gifts to the world. When you give with expectations, you create resistance in the flow. But when you give from the overflow of your heart, you align with the natural law of circulation that governs all life. Consider the sun, which pours forth its radiance without demanding anything in return. Yet in this endless giving, it fulfills its highest purpose and maintains the entire web of life. This is the model of divine giving, unconditional, abundant, and free from attachment to results. Miranda Park embodied this principle in her work as a creative mentor. She noticed that whenever she shared her artistic knowledge with pure delight, never counting the cost, unexpected blessings would appear in her life. A student would connect her with a prestigious gallery, or an admirer would commission a major work. The universe responded not to her actions alone, but to the spirit of joy behind them. The law of reciprocity operates with mathematical precision, yet it cannot be manipulated through calculation. The moment you give in order to get, you introduce resistance into the equation. True giving flows from abundance rather than need, from delight rather than duty. When you give from joy, you declare your trust in the infinite supply of the universe. You demonstrate your understanding that all gifts originate from the same source and must eventually return there. Like a river flowing to the sea, only to rise again as rain, nothing given in love is ever truly lost. Sacred practice. Choose one opportunity today to give something valuable, whether it be time, knowledge, resources, or simple kindness. Give it freely, with no thought of return. Feel the joy of releasing this gift into the universal flow, knowing it carries your energy of love into the world. Trust that this same energy, multiplied by divine law, is already flowing back toward you through channels you cannot yet imagine. Chapter 33. The Higher Self Revealed. A merchant named Nathan Graves stood at the crossroads of a life-changing decision. For years, he had built a thriving business following conventional wisdom and careful planning. Yet lately, a gentle whisper had been growing stronger within his heart, urging him to venture in an entirely new direction. At first, he dismissed these promptings as mere fantasy. The voice suggested paths that seemed to contradict all logical business sense. But as he resisted, his once successful ventures began to falter, as if the universe itself conspired to turn his attention inward. One sleepless night, exhausted from wrestling with uncertainty, Nathan surrendered to stillness. In that moment of quiet, he recognized something profound. The voice he had been hearing was not some external force, but rather his own consciousness speaking from a deeper level of understanding. This was not divine intervention from afar, but the stirring of his own expanded awareness. With this recognition, fear dissolved into clarity. He understood that intuition was not mysterious guidance from an outside source, but his own higher knowing expressing itself through feeling and subtle impression. The separation between his everyday self and this wisdom was an illusion. They were one and the same. Selena Ford, a gifted artist, discovered this truth through a different path. For years, she had sought approval from critics and galleries, always second-guessing her creative instincts. But when she finally began to trust and follow her inner promptings without question, her art transcended all previous limitations. She noticed that whenever she painted from this place of alignment with her expanded awareness, circumstances arranged themselves effortlessly. Materials she needed would appear at precisely the right moment. Opportunities arose spontaneously. Even her most experimental works found their perfect audiences, as if guided by an invisible hand. The universe demonstrates that when consciousness awakens to its true nature, external reality aligns without struggle. This is not the working of separate spiritual forces, but rather the natural expression of your own expanded being. The voice of intuition is your own highest wisdom speaking through the language of peaceful knowing. Ancient practice. Sit quietly in a comfortable position. Close your eyes and ask inwardly, what would my highest self know right now? Allow yourself to sink into deep stillness. The first answer that arrives with a sense of calm certainty, free from anxiety or urgency, is your own expanded awareness speaking. Trust this gentle knowing, for it comes from the deepest truth of who you are. Chapter 34. The Law of the Living Word. Long ago, in a mountain monastery, a novice monk named Joseph Ward watched his words fall like pebbles into a still pond, each ripple extending outward into manifest form. He noticed that when he spoke with casual disregard, his utterances dissipated like mist. Yet when he infused his speech with unwavering conviction, reality seemed to bend toward his declaration. Through patient observation, Joseph discovered that the universe responded not to the volume of his voice, but to the authority with which he spoke. Words carried on doubt scattered like seeds in wind, while those rooted in certainty bloomed without fail. This revelation transformed his understanding. Every syllable became a creative act, every phrase a divine decree. The power of the spoken word extends far beyond mere communication. When you grasp that each statement is a command to the cosmic forces, you begin to choose your words with sacred intention. The universe does not distinguish between casual conversation and deliberate creation. It simply responds to the emotional charge behind every utterance. Consider Beatrice Long, who discovered this principle through her own remarkable transformation. Where once she habitually spoke of others' faults, she began consciously blessing everyone in her thoughts and speech. She would say, "I see only good in this person," or "all is well between us." At first, these declarations felt hollow, yet she persisted. Within weeks, the very people she had struggled with began to mirror her changed perspective. Difficult colleagues became allies, strained family relationships healed themselves, and even strangers responded to her with unexpected warmth. The shift in her external world precisely matched the shift in her verbal expression. This is the hidden mechanics of creation. Your words are literally programming the matrix of reality. When you speak with conviction, you are not merely describing what is, but commanding what will be. The universe, in its infinite responsiveness, shapes itself around your declarations. Yet this power requires responsibility. Each complaint reinforces unwanted conditions, while each blessing multiplies good. Your words are like seeds planted in fertile soil. They will grow exactly what you have spoken, whether consciously chosen or carelessly uttered. The ancient wisdom teaches that creation itself began with a word. You participate in this ongoing creation through every phrase you speak. When you align your speech with your highest vision, letting no idle word escape your lips, you become a conscious co-creator with the divine. Ancient practice. Throughout this day, treat each word as a sacred decree. Before speaking, pause to feel the creative power in your voice. Let every phrase carry the weight of certainty, knowing the universe listens and responds to all you declare. Speak as though your words are divine law taking form, and watch as reality reshapes itself to match your enlightened speech. If you enjoyed this audiobook, I created a free ebook version for you. You can download it using the link in the pinned comment. Conclusion. In these final moments of understanding, a profound truth emerges, one that has whispered through every teaching, every principle, and every demonstration shared within these chapters. The power you have sought has never been distant. It has been the very essence of your being, awaiting recognition. From the first breath of creation, your consciousness has been the author of experience. Each thought believed, each emotion embraced, each assumption held has sculpted the clay of existence. The universe, in its infinite wisdom, has never judged your creations. It has simply and faithfully manifested them all. This knowledge, once forbidden because its simplicity threatened complex systems of belief, now stands revealed. You are not merely a participant in reality. You are its source. Every word spoken in your mind, every feeling cherished in your heart, every vision held in your imagination has been law, absolute and unquestioned. The teachings of imagination, feeling, assumption, revision, and love are not separate paths, but different glimpses of the same eternal truth. Consciousness is the only reality. This understanding transcends mere metaphysical theory. It is the practical foundation of existence itself. As these chapters close, recognize that you stand at the threshold not of an ending, but of conscious authorship. The power has always been yours. The universe has always obeyed. Your task now is not to seek, but to accept the creative authority that has been yours since time began. Step forward now, knowing that every inner picture you paint, every feeling you embrace, every assumption you accept becomes law. The universe awaits not your pleading, but your conscious command, eager to demonstrate what it has always known, that you are the dreamer from whom all dreams flow.
If you enjoyed this exclusive audiobook, I handpicked this next book which will change your life.